Welcome to Taste Buds. I'm Debra Eckerling, goal strategist, writer, and foodie. And today I'm speaking with Lisa Niver, who's a travel writer and author of Bravish. Lisa, welcome. Great to see you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and talk about food and my brand new book.
Well, I want to talk to you because I feel like travel and food are so intertwined. Why is that?
Yes, I completely agree that one of the things most people reference when they come back from traveling is the great food experiences that they've had. That one of the things that we like is to have a novel experience. And one of the best things to do besides try new food is to try new food with someone, whether that's a new restaurant or your travel partner. I think it makes a big impression because it impacts so many of your senses.
So, how do you, when you're traveling, I'm sure, well, you probably plan like to the max, but when someone is traveling, how do you find good food experiences? How do you um, find what's the good stuff and what the what the tourists do, as opposed to to have actual
Locals.
experiences, right?
Yeah, I
Those.
think one of the things that we're often looking for when we're in a place is what do people that live here do? And so one great way to do that, one thing that I found is to ask chefs. And the best access you can have to chefs is take a cooking class. So I've been fortunate to take cooking class all around the world and especially even here in Los Angeles. And the thing that I found, like I took a great cooking class in Vietnam, and they actually took us walking from the restaurant to the market, and they were showing us this is in season, this is the food we're going to make. The other thing that happens is they live there. So a lot of times they'll say, oh, this came from such and such village. And you can find out, can I visit that village? Or they'll say, I get this bread from my cousin who has the bakery down the street. So you can put that in your mind, like, oh, I'm going to go to the bakery. And then when you're at the bakery, you can ask that person, well, where do you eat dinner? A lot of times I ask people, I was in a great restaurant. My nephew plays baseball and it was collegiate regional finals. It was very impressive. So we were in Fort Walton, Indiana, where I'd never been. And we were an amazing restaurant. I went there because my book agent's co-agent happened to live in this town. And she gave me a list of all these great restaurants, and that's where we went. So you need to have friends. You have to ask people, be curious, talk to people.
And you can get it. Well, we live in Los Angeles, so we are fortunate because there's food like everywhere.
Yes.
And cooking classes here. What are some good food experiences that you've had
Oh,
without leaving home?
without leaving home?
Yeah, and then
I
we'll go with leaving home. But let's start
Okay.
here.
Okay. I took a great cooking class at Sur La Table. I think that it was in the Grove actually at the time. And I just remember showing up and we got to taste everything. And I was there with a friend, but you usually work in a group of 4 or 6 or 8, and sometimes different tables in the cooking class are making different parts of the meal. So of course, being me, I would have to go over and talk to them and find out what they were doing and who they are and why are they there. So I made lots of new best friends. And I got to taste everything, and I'm a little bit picky. So I got to see, did I like how they were making it? How could I make it at my house? And I also took a great cooking class. It was on Pico, but I don't think that place is there anymore. But I have actually been looking into more cooking classes in LA.
So cooking is a way to travel without leaving home, but you can also take cooking classes as part of your travel adventures.
Yes, I took a most amazing cooking class in Tuscany. We made fresh pasta. We got to wear funny hats. I like that part. And we had tasted lots of different wine. There were amazing desserts. We made different sauces, and they gave us the recipes. And then I learned I had a great cooking lesson for apple strudel when I was on a Viking river cruise. The chef came out and gave us all the steps. It was my favorite part. We got to eat apple strudel. I love apple pie. I love apple strudel, but that was great. And we didn't actually make that, but just even being part of watching it and listening to a chef. I got to do a cooking experience with in Las Vegas at the Mandarin Oriental, and the chef was showing me how he plated everything, and he was talking about how food is a way into people's hearts. I thought it was just so beautiful.
Uh, well, it's true, and especially, taste buds, it's, conversations about food, cooking, and community. I believe all 3 go hand in hand in a hand, and so your book, Bravish, how much of your stories in your book are food related?
Oh, that's a good question. So, Bravish has one breakup, six continents, and feeling fearless after 50. So, I would say one of the funny things that people don't know about me is I have some food allergies. I'm very allergic to certain fruits. And I worked on the cruise ship for many, many years. And because it's basically the United Nations on the cruise ship, everybody speaks a different language. There were sadly a couple times maybe I got something that I was allergic to. And so I'm quite sensitive about trying new things. And in the book, one of my 50 challenges before I turned 50 was I actually had sushi for the first time. I had never had it, even though I'd been backpacking in Asia, because a lot of things I'm disinterested in because I feel a little bit nervous. But I did try that.
Well, but your title is Bravish, so doesn't that mean, like, you're brave facing almost anything?
That's an interesting thing. Before I wrote the book, I read a lot of other challenge books. And Shonda Rhimes has a book called The Year of Yes. And she made this commitment to say yes to everything. And there's a big chapter in the book about how saying no to things is part of saying yes. And it has come up. I've been places and people are like, oh, you have to do this. You're in a brave challenge. And I said, you know what? Just because I want to be more brave and more courageous doesn't mean I want to do anything or everything. So I have done a lot of things that other people think are crazy. There's still some things that are just not in my not going to happen list.
I'm with you on that because I'm a firm believer that when you say no to something that isn't a fit for you, it is saying yes to yourself. But also going on an adventure or 50 adventures is another way to say yes to yourself because you want that fun and exploration. So, what tips do you have for people who want to be a little bit more brave about their food adventures?
One of the things I always recommend when people want to know how to be more brave is to do it with a buddy. So one of the things that it's something I learned from scuba diving, we never go underwater without a buddy. And I find when I'm at a restaurant, one of my most favorite things to do is share because I want to try more than one thing, especially if I'm out for Thai food, which is my favorite. I always want to try that. All the tastes are so different. I want to have more. And so one of the things, if you're not so sure about something, I think it's a great plan. I have a few friends that travel with me, in particular, two of my friends from college, Carl and Heather, and they will eat pretty much anything. And so sometimes if I'm a little bit interested in something, they order it and I can taste it. I don't have to make a full commitment to a new dish or a food. Most of the times, in full honesty, I don't even taste it, but I like to see them eat it. They get very happy.
Well, but you're sharing the experience and you're seeing their joy and you're feeling it, which you can do without even tasting.
Yes, and I get to take the pictures.
Oh, well. When did food pictures become a thing?
I don't know, but some people are really excellent at making them so appetizing. I definitely when I'm out with a group of journalists, I really watch the angles other people take and they travel with an extra light and I'm very impressed by how they set up the picture of the meal.
But is the food cold by the time they're ready to take the picture? That would be a
So
problem for me.
So one of my friends that I was just with in Loreto, Mexico, we did this fantastic, fantastic trip learning about Visit Baja Sur. And he had all these different funny t-shirts. And one of his t-shirts says, the camera eats first. And yes, we did eat the food cold.
The camera eats first. Well, I guess you could just specialize in taking pictures of cold food like salads and then, then there's no problem. But I guess it would be limiting. So when you're not taking cooking classes or going on your adventures, what are some of the things that you like to cook?
Oh, well, I personally like to cook fricassee. I like to cook some of the Jewish like dishes that I grew up with for the holidays. My mom used to make fricassee for us. I love brisket. One of my personal favorite things that I love to make chocolate chip banana muffins.
Oh, well, that sounds like something that that's like universal, and it's take with you. Is it take with you? Is that why you bake them so much?
Well, I used to cook a lot when I was teaching. I used to teach science, and cooking is an incredible form of science. You have state change and measuring, there's math, there's science, there's eating. That was the favorite part, of course, for children. So I used to make those muffins all the time, and I do take them as snacks. I bring them with me on the plane, actually.
That's good. And so, would you be so kind as to share that recipe so everybody can travel with your favorite snack? And just like,
Absolutely. I would be delighted to share the recipe.
okay, and even if you're traveling like down the street, right? You pack your muffins, you pack your snack. I am a huge fan. Well, I drove cross country, and next to me was the big cooler of food that got open before I was on the highway. Anyway, different
I, I
different
also
digression.
we did a road trip to Death Valley. When during COVID, my friend from cruise ships, we had worked together for many, many years. She was here. She lives in Italy, but she was here with her twins, her not her twins, her teens. And it was when her daughter wanted to go to Death Valley, and the kids had a really great laugh that Julie and I traveled around the world, both of us for years. Both of us grew up in California, and neither of us had ever been to Death Valley. So we made a group road trip, and we were well prepared. Thank goodness our cooler, like you're talking about, definitely was open before we hit the highway. But while we were there, it was very important to have snacks and lunch, because there's in the park is it's amazing. Have you been to Death Valley?
I have not.
Okay, put it on your list. We had the best adventure, but you should definitely bring food and water.
So when you are traveling for a road trip or for a plane, how do you prepare food wise?
I prepare food rise. I basically bring my elementary school lunch on the plane. I have a little bag of carrots, and I have my banana chocolate chip muffins. I like hard boiled eggs. I get those red cheeses. I can't think of what their name is, like Bonnie Bell or something. And usually I take some wheat thin crackers, which is, and on school I used to take an apple. Now on the plane, I'm more likely to take a bag of raisins, because apple on the plane is there's a whole lot of issues with that. But I literally eat the whole plane ride. I have like cut up red pepper. I'm just having my smorgasbord as I cross different time zones.
Amazing. And so you're bringing a little bit of home with you as you travel. And then as you travel, you learn things that you can bring home with you.
I do. Sometimes I try really hard to learn the local language, but I have a lot of food errors usually when I'm trying to speak in another language and order something.
For example, because you,
So
you can't say that without giving us an example.
so I was traveling in Nepal, and we were in a small town called Tansin, and they did not see a lot of Western visitors. And the owner of our guest house was sort of like the mayor. He knew everyone. And he took us to another house, and it was a restaurant. I would use air quotes on restaurant, but it was very nice family. And the national dish of Nepal is momo, like a bao. Every culture has a meat wrapped in bread, something.
Right.
So we ordered these chicken momo, and they taught me how to say, "Can I please have chicken momo?" And everyone laughed, like, "Oh, isn't that cute? Lisa's trying to speak Nepalese. She's not so great, but it's entertaining. She's trying. We appreciate the effort." So we decide it was so great and there's not so many options. We're going back the next night. So we show up the next night, and I say my same phrase. The first night everyone's like, "Oh, Lisa, she's so cute. Isn't that funny?" And the second night they're all looking at me like not so happy. And I say it again because I'm nothing if I'm not enthusiastic. And they don't look happy. And finally, we try to communicate again. We're talking in English. We're not sure what's going on. It turns out the word for chicken is very similar to the word for dog.
Ooh.
So I asked to eat Fluffy, the dog, but not on purpose. But it was, that's what happened.
They did not serve you Fluffy.
No, I had chicken. They knew what I was like, how can you not know what I meant? I'm the girl from like yesterday. How many American people have been here since yesterday? Give me what I had yesterday. Anyway, it was it's funny. I found when I was first starting to travel, I had spent a semester in Jerusalem, and some of my friends were in other places around the world, and I went to visit. while I was studying. And when I was in Paris, I walked into a shop, I talked in English, and everyone ignored me. So the next shop I walked in, and at the time I spoke not very good Spanish with my terrible accent. And I spoke briefly in Spanish to a woman who promptly answered me in English. And the lesson I took away from that is if you make even a small, not great effort, people appreciate that. And so I always have tried to learn a few words.
So, any other tips that people need to know for their travel adventures?
Tips for your travel adventures. Well, one of the things I mainly tell people, because often the people that ask me that are not traveling so much. So if you're not traveling much, my suggestion is to start close to home. There are so many adventures in your own backyard. You could even drive home from work on a different street. And I know that a lot of people think that sounds maybe a tiny bit lame, but in fact, for your brain, to go anything new makes a difference. So drive on a different street. They even say, I interviewed Lisa Niver, who's a neuroscientist. She says, cook. People always cook. They put the pot on the same burner. You have 4 burners. Use a different burner. It makes a difference to your brain. It like opens up your neurons and the pathways. If you're already a great traveler and you love going out, one of my best tips is book your flights one way. No more round trips.
Ooh, so you can stay as long as you want and let one adventure lead to the next.
That is one good reason. The other reason is right now there's so much less lift. The airlines are changing schedules so frequently. There's many more maintenance issues. There's just less people everywhere. So it's possible that something in your itinerary could change. And this has happened to me multiple times. And because my outbound and my inbound are not tied together, if the airline cancels or changes anything, I don't lose the other half of my ticket because they're not connected.
Ooh, so it's not just about being adventurous, it's about being smart with your travel.
Well, a lot of times you put a lot of effort into being like, I need to be back for my kid's soccer game, or I have an important work meeting. So if they change your outbound ticket, sometimes that'll trigger canceling the whole ticket. But you already fell in love with whatever you're going 4 o'clock on United, and now you don't have that. And maybe by the time that happens, that flight's oversold. So if they're separate, if they're distinct entities, and I don't usually fly the same carrier both directions because I'm always looking for the best route. Like I want a direct route. I want the time I want. I do not want to fly into LAX at rush hour. So if that means I fly, the last one I did, I was American out and Alaskan back. I fly everybody. And that's my other tip is have the credit card at every airline. Get a free bag and lots of free miles. Don't miss out. Also, I've been telling people always ask me, where can you find my book? And my book is everywhere: Amazon, Target, Barnes & Noble, Walmart. It's a digital book, audiobook, paperback book. But I think it's really important that we support our local bookstores. So I always tell people, call your favorite bookstore, call your local bookstore, order the book, and tell them don't send it to me. Tell them you will come into the store and pick it up.
Okay, and you answered, well, I'll ask you again, where else can people find you?
Well, people can find me, my name, Lisa Niver. That's my social media I think I'm on 7 or 8 platforms now between Threads and LinkedIn and Instagram. And my YouTube is so close to 2 million views. As of today, only 50,000 to go to 2 million.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, good for you. So keep up the good vibes and the message and sharing your travels so people can learn and be inspired from it. And thank you so much for taking the time today to talk about Bravish, food, travel, and a bunch of other, and the kitchen sink, I think.
Yes, no, it's so exciting. I do think that it's really important for people to get out. And again, like it doesn't have to be that you quit your job and you traveled in an RV or you lived in hostels for 6 months. It doesn't have to be so dramatic. I think that people get a little bit caught up in what are other people doing, but you really can just decide, we're in LA. I'm going to Palm Springs for the weekend. I'm going to San Diego. We're so lucky. You go to the mountains, you go to the beach. Just see what's nearby. Start small. Don't give up.
Awesome. Thank you again, Lisa Niver, for joining me today. And thank you for tuning in to Taste Buds with Deb. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform. And you can go to jewishjournal.com/podcast to get the recipes and the chocolate chip banana muffins. So you're all prepared, whether you're traveling down the street or to another country. And also read the articles that go with each episode. And you can learn more at tastebudswithdeb.com. And so good luck, happy travels, and bon appetit.